Talking lethargic tortoises. Susie here is an Eastern Hermann's tortoise that I hatched myself. She spent the majority of summers outside, but now I find that this last year she spent a lot of time outside. And because of that, she's in tune with the seasons. Here in Canada, we're covered in snow. And this tortoise's last couple weeks, just zero activity, zero energy unless I put her underneath the light and put food out. And I just found like even the food, she wasn't even really eating it. So I've decided that even though she, pardon me, I'm still sick. Even though she's still young and small, we are gonna brumate her this year. So I've worked on emptying out her stomach contents by not feeding her now for, this is probably just about 3 weeks, no food. And so I've weaned off the lamp. And now we're going to turn off the heat lamp for the last week and limit the UVB by just adjusting my timers. And then she can go into the garage where I keep it 3 to 7 Celsius, depending on the time of day, and hunker down in some soil. So you'll have to stay tuned for those other videos. I just find at this stage of my life, there's no point in trying to overwinter a tortoise that doesn't want to. And at this point, almost all my tortoises that are adults, yeah, that'll be all of them except for the newcomers. I don't brumate or hibernate on the first ownership year of a tortoise. And I'll always have my babies inside, but I'm not like the fresh babies, like the under 90-day hatchlings. But I'll never fight a tortoise. Their instincts are stronger than ours. They are more in tune to nature than what human beings, I think, have ever been, let alone in this century. And you can take the tortoise out of nature, but you can't take the nature out of the tortoise. So I usually recommend anyone that's considering brumation to do a worm count, or maybe even a vet check. But a worm count is, in my opinion, kind of a minimum. I check a lot of my tortoises' worms myself by using a microscope. There's maybe I'll do a how-to video on how I do that. But yeah, Susie, like, this is the activity level that we're going to get out of Susie, who is probably a male, but because that's what she was more or less incubated for. I still have cuttlefish bone or a chunk of lump chalk available in these circumstances if they want to eat that, but I do not let them eat greens or dried feeds at this time of year if I'm going to do it. The wind down, it's a full commitment process, so before you consider it, research it. I see so many posts like, my tortoise is lethargic, do you think he's brumating? It should be a bit of a planned process, because you want that upper stomach area to be emptied, and maybe not entirely emptied, but I think the more empty the better as a general rule of thumb. And from what I've read and researched over the past few years, this is, I think, my 3rd or 4th year of brumating any tortoises. So I started off with my male, and then I've grown that to now I'm doing all the adults as I feel more comfortable. But I think, not to brag, but I think my way of brumating is probably the best way of brumating, because it uses the coldness from outside, and then I heat it. And unless my heater fails, which it was inspected last year, I highly doubt that it's going to fail. It's just not going to. And if it did, then the garage is insulated, so I at least have some amount of time. I should put an alarm in there, but in most cases, it's never left unattended long enough to actually freeze inside. And if it were to freeze inside, then it would have to penetrate inside those boxes and then get to the tortoise in the soil. So I feel pretty comfortable about brumating in my heated garage, although temperatures, it gets to minus 40 Celsius at points in the wintertime. So that furnace does work. And I usually just run out there with the little laser thermometer and give it a little check-see, because there's no harm in over-preparing yourself. .31, hot spot, real good. But yeah, you can tell she's just lethargic. She's healthy. She ate all summer, had energy. But they're solar-powered pets. These lights suck in comparison to what's outdoors. So we are going to put Susie in a box here at the end of the week, pretty much. And I won't do as long as she's going to go as the adults. Like, I'll try and wake her up probably in February, when my hatchlings go to market, is probably the timeline that we're looking at. So a 2-month hibernation, roughly. And I think that's enough for the first year, even if I do have to fight to overwinter. But that's better than the alternative of her just being lethargic all winter and me using lamp power that isn't doing anything for her. So it's like, utilities are expensive here in Canada. So, and when you run 3 setups like I do, 4 setups, it pays to be efficient, or at least attempt to be. On the long term of a 100-year pet, it is a cost. So I guess that's my argument, is nature and cost to overwinter, as well as the food. Like, it's harder to find weeds, and I I make my dried food, but that's not their favorite in comparison to like fresh broadleaf plantain, but they do eat it, they stomach it. It's no different than a cow. She comes around to the hay because it's necessity versus a total desire. But just so slow moving, Susie. It's like, we'll figure something out for you, sweetheart. Your pal Brando, Obs and Scotch, Naps Tortoise Keepers Canada. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate anyone that leaves a comment or a share, or or subscribes is obviously a really grateful thing. I'm grateful for. Over and out.